Okay, so Be'ezras Hashem, we're continuing with our weekly series of shirim on the Torah of recovery with the light revealed, where we try and illuminate the light of Torah onto the path of recovery and reveal the vessels of the path of recovery within the light of Torah itself. In this week's Parsha, Beshalach, we encounter a full gamut of experience, a beginning, a middle, an end, and the lesson and the message that emerges from this three-stage process. And it rests hidden in plain sight. It's not a secret. This is not the secrets of Torah. It's not something that is hidden within the words. It's not something that is a secondary narrative, some esoteric abstraction, but rather it's built into the text itself. It's revealed in the psukim itself. What's significant about this? Why is it significant that the notion that we're about to learn together or try and understand together is not hidden away somewhere in a treasure chest under threat of deservedness to behold the secret or not being a person worthy of holding the secret? Why is it valuable that the idea doesn't come from there, but rather it's revealed for all to see? Because it teaches us something very fundamental about breakthroughs. It teaches us the fact that very often the breakthrough, the shift in consciousness, significant enough to transform my life and enable me to overcome what I feel I can't overcome, to uncover a hitherto unrevealed power greater than myself that rests within myself, to reveal my dependency and my powerlessness in the face of the true source of all power, which is Hashem. Very often, those transitions, those shifts, those pivot points of that point of transvaluation where up is revealed to be down and down is revealed to be up, and suddenly everything changes in spite of the fact that nothing has actually changed on the outside. The shift is a humble, subtle, confident, concealed, reserved type of experience. It's revealed for all to see. It doesn't have to hide itself. It doesn't have to dress itself up in fancy. It doesn't have to dress itself up in confusion. It doesn't have to imply depth that's not there. What it presents is itself, and that is where the deepest secret of growth rests. As the Ramchal Zchus Yogan Aleinu writes in one of the most, in my humble opinion, significant documents that we have in the last 300 years, is the Ramchal's introduction to Mesilas Yesharim, written under a life of duress, written under a life of being chased and having a need to run from one place to the other as a result of not being understood and not being seen and never finding a place for himself, but ultimately always living with that silent, confident faith in himself and in his creator and his higher power in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Ramchal writes that what I'm going to reveal to you in this book, the final book, one of the final books that he gives us at the apex of his difficulty, also giving for us a very clear path towards what is referred to as a perpetual state of spiritual consciousness, a perpetual state of God consciousness, which includes within itself the notion of being separate from God consciousness, where that separation is revealed to be part and parcel of the experience itself. So he comes to say that I'm not teaching you anything new. I'm not teaching you anything new. There's no chiddush here. There's nothing deep here. There's no hidden treasure that a person has to go and seek. You don't have to go far. Karovu, it's close to you. It rests within your mouth, within your mind, and within your heart. It's already baked into you. A person already has the capacity to uncover the secret transvaluation of Yeshin Yan Shiyitapecha Kol Tova, that there's something that transforms everything to good. And it's hidden in plain sight. It's the deepest secret in the world, as the Vilna Gaon said, that when a person understands the depth of the secret, then they can return and understand the simplicity of the text. It's the secret of, after all of the complication, we return back to the complicated decision to accept simple faith upon ourselves and to walk without knowing and to embrace not knowing and to celebrate not knowing and to celebrate the opportunity to come to know in earnest and in honesty that we truly do not know, and to allow our minds to tarry into the thought that maybe I know, and then to suddenly be reminded by the waves of faith that awaken a person in their moments of conscious awareness that I don't know. Lo yodea klum, I don't know anything at all. I don't know anything at all. Let me read what is written. Instead of going deeper, thinking I know something, let me read what is written. Let me read the pshat. And in the pshat is uncovered a pashat, a pashtas, a simple way of living that is not loud, it's not surprising, it's not strange, it's not even exciting necessarily. It's a sober, kind of balanced expression of the middle path that is uncomplicated. It's non-extreme. There's no extremity to it. It's not to the left, it's not to the right. It's a secret pillar of the middle path, which is the Eitz HaChaim itself, from the top down to the bottom, from the bottom all the way up to a place even higher than the top. The greatest expression is the simplicity and the simple wisdom inherent within the humble work that it takes to take the next right step in avodah, and very often it's revealed to us right in front of our eyes. So we're going to learn about what happens after breakthrough. We're going to be looking at the psukim in this week's parsha in Beshalach. We're going to be looking in Perek Tesvav, the 15th chapter in Shemos. And we're going to be looking at Pasuk Chaf Beis to Chaf Daled. So it's the 15th chapter, the 22nd verse to the 26th verse. And it's discussing what happens immediately after the Great Escape, immediately after redemption from a place that was considered by all, almost by dint of fact, to be irredeemable, to be a place that a person cannot ascend from, a stuckness that knew no escape, an addiction so deep that it was impossible to remove oneself because the desire to remove oneself was so deadened that a person had no idea they were even stuck. And in that place, had we waited and submerged even 1 second longer, we would have been swallowed up by it. We would have said, I accept this servitude, I accept this space of fundamental mental slavery, mental addiction, emotional addiction, physiological addiction, all of the different stages of enslavement of the mind, heart, and body. Paro, the greatest addiction of all, the great serpent, the deepest klipa in the world, the notion of power, the notion of the ability for a human being to control something in this world, to have perfection in this world. We escaped from it. We accepted imperfection. We dove into the impossibility of things. We dove into Kriyas Yamsuf. We did the impossible. It was impossible to cross the sea. It was impossible to break free from Mitzrayim. How are we supposed to do it? Don't talk, just do it. Do it. Take the next right step. Jump, leap, bimadalei galaharim. Jump beyond imagined preventions and see where you land. Aim for the sky and a person hits the ceiling. Hope for a miracle, and a person will come to understand the secret of the revealed miracles that are taking place each and every day, the hidden miracles of each and every moment. And so that excitement of Kriyas Yamsuf, of jumping into the impossible and suddenly the impossible revealing an impossible possibility of a path within the impossibility. The water remains the water. It's still impossible. For a person who hasn't taken the leap beyond impossibility yet, and leaped into the possibility of something impossible taking place, the water is still there. It's still impossible, but there's a radical secret of possibility at the heart of impossibility. Hanoisen biyam derech. HaKadosh Baruch Hu places a path within the sea. It's the secret ability to break free from what one cannot break free from, and in spite of the fact that one cannot break free from it, nevertheless, they're breaking free from it in real time, and each and every step of being menateket atzminu, removing ourselves from that addiction, is ultimately one step forward into the depths of the sea, into the secret of Levav Yam, to see what Yonah ben Amittai saw, to see the secret of sometimes when it comes to taking the next right step, I have to go to sleep, I have to leap, I have to go down to the bottom of the ship and stop thinking about anything other than what needs to be done in this moment right now. And in that place, we come to understand that that was impossible, and now it's possible. And we experience a radical breakthrough. We experience the illumination of the day. The mind is illuminated. The heart is illuminated. We're free. We're free. We're free. We're singing as if everything is complete. And then suddenly, what happens next? So we find ourselves in verse 22. And in verse 22 of chapter 15 in Parshas Beshalach, the verse says as follows. Pasuk says, "Vayisa Moshe es Yisrael mayamsuf v'yatzu al midbar shur v'yelchu shloshes yamim b'midbar v'lo matzu mayim." And Moshe Rabbeinu, the leader of the Jewish people, who just enabled this impossible path to appear with the help of Hashem, or Hashem with the help of Moshe, both that secret unity, and that Moshe leads the Jewish people from the sea that they just miraculously broke free from. They're free from their overlord of Paro. And they went into the Midbar Shore. They went into the desert. The Midbar Shore is a language of vision. They had a vision of the desert. There was in the desert the vision. Midbar Shur, from within the desert a vision, but sometimes it first appears as the vision of a desert. And the vision of a desert is an awareness, wait a second, I'm still deficient, I'm still thirsting, I'm parched. I still don't have something. The Yelchu Shloshes Yamim, and they went 3 days, 3 stages of experience, youth, middle age, old age. Each and every day is composed of these 3 parts. Each and every moment is ultimately composed of these 3 days. Every moment is 3 moments because it's past, present, and future merging together. Every day is these 3 days. Every week is these 3 weeks. Every month is these 3 months. Every year is these 3 years, and et cetera, et cetera. It's always 3 that are 2 that are 1. And so they went 3 days away, and they went through a process of, okay, we forgot about the radical nature of suddenly being free and the impossibility of what we're trying to do to move forward from within stuckness, from within addiction. And they couldn't find water. There was no water. There was no awakening. There was no awareness. There was no excitation. There was no sustenance. There was a desire. They became aware of their parched nature. They became aware of how thirsty they had been. They became aware that, yes, we stopped drinking from poisonous water, but we haven't started quenching ourselves yet. We haven't started experiencing the possibility of joy and sustenance and sustainability. We need mayim. We need mayim. And they came to a place of marasa, of embitterness, which is only named that place because of what took place in that place, but nevertheless, it's named that place prior to that thing taking place, because the makom and the experience are fundamentally rooted within one another when it comes to Kedusha. They came to marasa, they came to the beginning of the journeys, the process of entering into the midbar. And there was they couldn't even drink water. What they saw to perhaps satisfy that void that emerged in their lives when they suddenly realized, wow, we're free and we don't know what to do with this freedom. We're free and we thought all we needed was freedom, but we don't yet know what the next step of what we do with this freedom is. They came to realize that the only point of reference that they had for searching for something that would fulfill them were the objects of addiction, were paro. And that hits a high level on the dopamine scale. So whatever was being provided to them in the midbar shore, they saw it as the reality of what it was. Compared to what they were experiencing now, all they wanted was cucumbers. All they wanted was the nothingness of Mitzrayim was even better in their eyes. And there was no mayim, there was no dopamine surge, there was no capacity to receive a sense of sustenance. They were in a state of anhedonia, of a death of pleasure death, where after one cuts themselves away from maladaptive behaviors, maladaptive sources of dopamine expression, dependency on big events, dependency on affirmation, dependency on object, on subject, on substance, on process, whatever it is that we imagine ourselves to be addicted to for the sake of reaching that dopamine excess point where it feels good, where it felt as intense and purposeful as it did at the apex of slavery in Mitzrayim, which was the depth of the addiction, the depth of being completely overtaken by what we thought we were in control of. And in that pleasure death, the self is seeking something out. I'm thirsty and I need something. The soul has yet to become aware of what its true thirst is truly yearning for, which is the secret of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the secret of reaching out to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They couldn't drink the water because the water was bitter. It was bitter water. It was bitter water. The water was bitter. It created a sense of distance. It created a sense of separation. It created a sense of deficiency and a yearning that can't be satisfied, and a privation and a murmur, a chewing on death itself, this emptiness that hit them suddenly after the great escape and the boredom that descended on them. They experienced it as bitter. Al ken kara shema mara. They referred to it as bitter. And they came to complain to the tzaddik. They came to complain to the one who brought them out and said, I promise you, it's going to be good when you take that leap. And they complained and they were screaming and they were crying out to Moshe Rabbeinu. What are we supposed to do? What are we going to drink? From whence is the dopamine going to come? From whence is the sense of connectivity going to come? If we've severed ourselves from the previous addiction, where are we going to find awakening? Where are we going to find the sense of life? Where's the chayim? Vayitzak el Hashem v'yireyu Hashem eitz v'yishlach al hamayim v'yimtiku hamayim sham sam lo yichoyku mishpat v'sham nisahu. And suddenly, in an act of urgency, almost as if it was that scream that Moshe Rabbeinu was forced to hold in right before Kriyas Yamsuf, where Hashem says, Ma titzak alai tedaber b'nei Yisrael v'yisrael. Don't scream to me. Now's not the time to scream to me. Speak to the Jewish people. Take that leap. You'll need to scream to me in another point. You'll need to scream to me when it comes to figuring out how to heal a people that has suddenly severed itself off from the most poisonous attachment imaginable, the attachment to power, the attachment to a sense of perfectibility, God forbid. And they scream, Moshe Rabbeinu screams out to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, V'yireyu Hashem eitz, and Hashem gives him an eitzah. He shows him a tree. He shows him the secret of what we learned from the Ramchal, that the tzadi is the tzaddik. It's each person. We all have a tzelem. We all have a soul and a body, and that ayin, that eye that comes from above, is that secret illumination that comes from the highest levels of self. Hashem came to give Moshe an eitzah, how to help the Jewish neshama, which is an eitzah sadeh, which each and every Jew is an eitzah chayim, waiting to reveal itself as always already having been in Gan Eden, that we never left Gan Eden. And here Moshe Rabbeinu is receiving. Now Moshe Rabbeinu is saying, okay, Hashem, you're not going to stop me. I'm going to scream out to you now, because now I don't know what to do. How do I feed a people that has just been severed from what they thought they needed to survive? I took them out of Mitzrayim. Fine, I was able to do that. But now I need to scream out to you. Because how do you feed a people that thought they were satisfied and now are becoming aware of the depth of the thirst that they feel because they haven't been fed what they needed? And he screamed out to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, V'yireu Hashem eitz, Zak the Heilige Ramban. And Rashi also points it out. V'yireu, he didn't just show him, he taught him a way of functioning, he taught him a way of living, he taught him a secret path. He educated Moshe about something. He gave Moshe an education, a spiritual experience of an educational variety. This was no longer going to be the excitement of crossing the impossible sea by way of impossible possibility. This was the reckoning with the fact that now I feel empty. Now I'm thirsty. Okay, you've given my soul an awareness that it's thirsty, but feed me now. I've cut myself off from the poisonous source, but now feed me. Where's the neshama going to find its mayim? The neshama, these neshamas of Tohu knew what they were asking, and Moshe Rabbeinu says, now I'm going to yell. What do I do? And Hashem teaches Moshe something. What does Hashem teach Moshe? He shows him a tree. He gives him an eitzah. He shows him a place, the hidden place of a tree. And he throws the tree into the bitter water, and the waters are sweetened. And it is specifically there and in that place, and as a result of this particular expression, that he set a law and a real law in reality of how things are going to go. And it's from there that they moved forward. What does the Ramban tell us? What did Chazal tell us on this pasuk? There's a doubled miracle going on here. It's not simply that Hashem said, Moshe, okay, I understand they're thirsty, so take a tree and sweeten the water for them and just give them something to get by. That would have been a nace to settle the hunger, a harm reduction model of settling the hunger, where a harm reduction psychological model of settling the hunger by way of just finding some secondary thing to feed it, of saying, here, quench your thirst on this. And that would have been a nace, but there's a nace betoch nace that's happening here. What's the doubled miracle here? The doubled miracle is that the tree itself was bitter. The tree itself was bitter. That Hashem revealed to Moshe Rabbeinu the secret that if you want to sweeten the bitter water, you have to throw a bitter tree into it. Because when bitter is mixed with bitter, they merge together to reveal the true source of bitterness, which is the fact that it's coming from a place of goodness. It's coming from a place of functionality. It's coming from a place of everything being present. That merirus, the bitterness that a person experiences when they're unable to find something that satisfies them. And they're searching for the cure. They're searching for the cure to satisfy their thirst and their hunger. This eitzah that Moshe Rabbeinu learns is that you have to sweeten the hunger with hunger itself. You have to sweeten the bitter with the bitter itself. Instead of running away from the bitterness, which implies a sense of distance and a sense of longing and a sense of yearning and a sense of longing for something that one can never have, and the love sickness that is awoken when a person comes to the awareness of the transiency and all that is real in the world of bina and gvura and severity. That sometimes a person has to experience those feelings within bitterness to free themselves from bitterness. That one cannot douse the bitterness. A person can't run away from the fact that I'm thirsty. A person has to understand, of course I'm thirsty. I have to learn to cultivate the yearning of the soul. I have to learn what it means to have a ratzon pnimi and a ratzon naki, a clean ratzon, to cultivate a ratzon. And it's not to punish ourselves, God forbid, and say, here, you can never be satisfied. Adarabba, Ibcha Mastaber, the deepest satisfaction comes from the acceptance of the fact that one will be on a certain level perpetually dissatisfied. And in that place, a person comes to find the secret of satisfaction. And you will be satisfied in the thirst of your soul. If a person thinks the thirst of the soul can be satisfied, then the soul is going to grow hungry and grow addicted to whatever it thinks is going to satisfy it. But when the soul is able to uncover the fact that the yearning itself and the fact that I can't be satisfied is not a deficiency or a symptom, but rather symbolic of the fact that the object of my desire is something that is far greater than accessibility can even begin to define, that it's something that's ever present, and therefore I can't even learn what it is to have it or want it. The moment I think that I'm separate from it is the moment I've already severed my connection to its absolute unity. Desire and spirituality, yearning and spirituality is meant to cultivate an awakening of the fact that the thing that I search is always going to be a certain level removed from me. Now, that removal does not mean distance. That removal means a new way of relating, of progress and not perfection, and perpetual ascension of levels, climbing a ladder of growth, which by definition means coming in contact with the next level of the void that is resting right above this level of stability, like a ladder where I take a step on stability and then I take a step off into instability, and I come to terms with the fact that it's still deficient, and then I climb again and again and again ad infinitum. That's the secret of recovery, that there is no necessary end result. That's the secret of a spiritual life, that it's a lech lecha, it's a journey without end. It's a yearning that finds satisfaction within its own yearning. And then from Mara, once we learn the secret of Mara, of Mamtik Mar B'mar, then we can move forward and prepare ourselves for Har Sinai, which is a place of where we don't really have to suffer the Mariras so much, where we don't have to spend too much time in that place of Mariras. But a person who tries to run to Matan Torah without understanding the secret of Mara, is going to come to Matan Torah and wonder, what do I do when I'm dissatisfied with everything? It's only in the secret of Mara that precedes Matan Torah, which is the secret of learning how to be satisfied in my dissatisfaction, to be satisfied with the perpetual dissatisfaction that doesn't breed sadness or pain, but rather it breeds a yearning and a longing and a homesickness for something that I know not how to define, but I also know that it's never far from me. It's karov. It's immediately close, as close and close could be. But the moment I try and open the door to it, it exceeds my grasp. In the story of Shir Hashirim. And in that place, we learn the secret. Rashi tells us, what do we receive there? We received Shabbos and we received Para Aduma. The Balaturim points out, this is the secret. Para Aduma is Hamtakas Adinim B'Sharasham, of refining concealment by way of concealment itself, of coming to find that God himself is the concealment. The concealment and limitation, it's not that God is there, it is God. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu reveals himself in every way. And that's rooted in the Hamtakas Adinim B'Sharasham, of being Mamtik Mar B'Mar, because from the forest itself comes the handle for the axe. And the wisdom of the problem is far more than just half of the solution. When we refine the energy of the problem and we redirect it into vessels of rectification, we draw the chaos of the soul of Mara, and we learn that secret of Emasai Ka'asimar, that when is the redemption going to come? When is the Mariris going to be redeemed? When are we going to understand the secret of V'nahapachu Asher Yishlatu Ayudim Hema B'Seineim, and the secret of Para Aduma, of refining ourselves from death and reverberating ourselves and coming back to life, and the secret of Tchias HaMesim, and the secret of tasting Shabbos in our lives, which is learning how to find satisfaction within the natural tendency to always be dissatisfied. Chazal and the wisdom of the Torah say something very beautiful and fundamental in Shabbos. I'm satisfied because I'm satisfied, not because I'm actually satisfied, but I've chosen to say that I'm satisfied. It's the Tamimas and the Pshitas. It's the revealed text itself. I don't have to look for anything fancy. Let me eat my crusty bread and let me sing out and say, thank you, Hashem, for the greatest meal in the world, and the secret of Tamimas and Pshitas, of simplicity and acceptance and joy. And Be'ezras Hashem, we should be zocha to learn the secrets of Moshe Rabbeinu and Mara, and take the next steps on the journey towards the Midbar, where we understand that Har Sinai awaits. And when Har Sinai awaits, when we're aware of the pitfalls afterwards, we come to reveal the Torah in a way that it hasn't been revealed before, Be'ezras Hashem.